This is activity 4, check it. For lesson 5, solve any linear equation. This is actually the cool down activity for lesson 5. And in this activity, Noah wants to check his answer of x equals 14/5. So he wants to check that 14/5. So he takes the equation and he replaces x with 14/5 and goes through the calculations, and he gets a different answer on each side of the equal sign or each side of the equation. So he doesn't know where he made his mistake. So your job is to find out where he made his mistake. Now this is tough because he actually doesn't know if 14/5 is the correct answer, is the correct value for x, or he has made a mistake in checking his answer. Turns out in this case he made a mistake in checking his answer. The correct answer is 14/5, but somewhere in this check he made a mistake. So he starts off by saying, I want to get rid of this 1/2. I have half of a group here. I want to get rid of the 1/2 by multiplying by 2 to make it a whole group. So if I have half of a group and I multiply it by 2, I double it, then that gives me one whole group. And that's what this 7 times 14/5 minus 6 is right here. And he remembers that he has to multiply every term by 2. So 2 times 6 is 12, so that's this 12 right here. And 2 times 10 is 20, so that's this 20 right here. And these 2's cancel, so you're left with a whole group. 7 times 14/5 minus 6 equals, and then 2 times this term minus 2 times this term, this 10. So he does that calculation, ends up here. So this is okay, this is correct. But it's interesting because then he wants to use the distributive property to get rid of this 5, and this is where he makes his mistake. So he's going to multiply by 5, so 5 times this term. I'm going to call this a whole term. It's everything inside the parentheses, so 5 times that. And when he does that, he's going to get 5 times 7 times 14, so 5 times 7 times 14, and all of that you can write as being divided by 5. So that's okay. But then he forgets. He also has to multiply, using the distributive property, you have to multiply both terms by the factor outside the parentheses. So he forgets to multiply the 6 times 5. If you have 5 groups of this, then you have 5 of these things, 7 times 14/5, and also you have 5 6's. 5 times 6 is 30. So he forgets the second 5 right here, the second factor. It's almost as if he says, I'm going to get rid of this 5 by multiplying by 5. Okay, I'm done. But he forgets. He has to multiply the second factor by 5 as well, and he does the same thing on the right side. I'm going to get rid of this 5 right here in the denominator by multiplying by 5. So 5 times 12, you can write this as times 14 over 5. And the reason I'm doing that here is it's easier to see the 5's that's multiplied by this term, and then it gets canceled. You have 5, and you can separate out the 5 in each case. You can separate out this as 5 times 1/5 times 12 times 14, and the 5 times 1/5 is equal to 1. And the same thing right here, 5 times 1/5 times 7 times 14, so 5 times 1/5 is 1. But then he forgets once again to multiply the second term, this 20, by 5. So he forgets this second 5 right here. So this is 5 times 20, so that's what he forgets. Now I'm going to rewrite this down here so it's not such a mess, but this is 30 and this is 100, this is 30 and this is 100. So now it's 7 times 14 minus 30. So these 5's have canceled out. You're left with 7 times 14 minus 30, and these 5's have canceled out. So 5 times 1/5 is 1. So you're left with 12 times 14 minus 100. Then you do that arithmetic. 98 minus 30, 98 minus 30, 168 minus 100, and both of these equal 68. So 14/5 is in fact the correct solution for this equation. X does equal 14/5. And the key to doing this is to remember that when using the distributive property, you have 5 groups of what's inside the parentheses. So I have 5, imagine you have 5 boxes of red squares and pink squares. And if you take all of the red squares out of all the boxes, you're going to end up with 5 red squares. So you have 1 of these in each box. You take them all out of the boxes or all out of the groups. You have 5 red squares and you have 5 pink squares. So you have to remember that you have 5 of both of these. So 5 red squares, 5 pink squares. So when you use the distributive property, you have to distribute the factor, distribute this 5 to each term separated by addition or subtraction. So each of these terms, whether it's separated by addition or separated as over here by right here by subtraction or by subtraction. So you have to remember, once again, once we start talking in these, using these words over here, we lose sight that this is 5 groups, because we say, oftentimes we just say you have to distribute that 5 to both. Well, why? Because it's 5 groups. It's 5 of these and it's 5 of these. So distribute the factor to each term, which are separated by addition or subtraction.